Hi everybody, this is Mr. Farmer and welcome to AP Microeconomics. Today's topic, price discrimination and regulated monopolies, which we're also going to be calling natural monopolies. Here we go. So first thing you want to try is just drawing the monopoly graph. So try this, pause the video, correctly label curves, indicate profit, deadweight loss, consumer surplus, because we're going to be dealing with some of these things later. Alright, now you've done that, here's what it should look like. So downward sloping demand curve, downward sloping marginal revenue curve, with marginal revenue being less than the demand curve. The marginal cost in ATC, same as they always are. And so the profit maximizing output, MR equal to MC, you can see that should be the output. You then go up to your demand curve, which is going to identify the willingness of people to buy that good, and that's going to be your price, or P. The profit is indicated by the green shaded area. It's going to be the price at that quantity compared to the ATC at that quantity, so that's times the total quantity, so that'll be that. The red area is the dead weight loss. Again, the last video we talked about how the marginal cost curve becomes our substitute supply curve for monopolies. So where supply equals demand is still the socially optimum output. So we want to be at that intersection right here. But we're currently at the market output, which is kind of what the Q was. So we have our dead weight loss. And last is the consumer surplus. So we do have consumer surplus here. We're going to come back to this, which is why I wanted to know this. So we have what people are willing to spend their money on. The demand curve is still willingness compared to the price they're going to. And so we have the surplus consumer benefit or consumer surplus, which is going to be this blue section. All right, if you need to review that, definitely check. Otherwise, here we go. So price discrimination, regulated monopolies. First off, what is price discrimination? Price discrimination is the practice of selling a specific product at more than one price when the price differences are not justified by cost differences. Now, you and I run across price discrimination all the time, and we're okay with it. So we are assuming it's going to be on the legal side, on the up and up, not for some heinous reason. You'll see what I mean when I go through some examples. So before we talk about what the price discrimination can look like, let's talk about what you need in order to even do this. So price discrimination, the first thing you need is the ability to charge different prices, meaning you need to have enough power within the market, so we call it monopoly power, to actually do that. Again, monopolies are price givers, price makers. They decide the price. Compare that to like perfect competition where no one firm has enough power in the market to change the price. They're not going to be able to. And we'll talk about monopolist competition another time. Second is I need to be able to identify who is and is not part of the group that is going to be getting this price change. Now, usually when we say this, the price discrimination, we're talking about like lower prices. Buy one, get one for less. Because you're part of this membership, like I'll say the Safeway Club. Okay, well, if you're part of the Safeway Club, you get the lower price. I need to be able to identify who receives that price, again, it's usually a lower price, easily enough that it doesn't disrupt my entire business. And typically based on somebody's elasticity, and we're going to come back to that point later. The third thing is I want to make sure whoever gets this price decrease, again, typically it's a decrease, can't resell this thing. I want this good to go towards you. You're a senior citizen. I want you to have this 10% in order to boost my sales. In fact, if you go on to price discrimination, most of the time what pops up is pricing strategies. Okay, in order to increase your customer base, you do price discrimination like give a 10% discount to the senior citizens. Like give a matinee price. Give a lower price for a child to the movie. If you've never seen Liar Loud Crocodile, it's a wonderful movie. Side note. Anyways, so you give these prices, and the idea is that if you are a child and you go to this movie, you don't get to give this lower reduced price ticket to an adult. No, you are the one who has it. If you get the matinee price, you don't get to then take that ticket to the 9 o'clock show during the premium high time for movies. If you're part of the military, thank you for your service. We're going to give you a discount from Southwest Airlines. But I don't want you to buy this ticket and then all of a sudden give it to your friend who is not part of the military, who's not part of your direct family. I gave it to you for a specific reason. So in order to do a good price discrimination, I want to make sure that I can identify the person who is using this is the person who is intended to be. Now, why would I want to do this? A lot of times, it's a strategy. So we can talk about how the marginal cost curve can be flat. We haven't really talked about this much, but just kind of, I think a movie theater is a good example. What we're talking about is the additional cost to produce one more unit really doesn't cost us any more. And so I think of a movie theater. If I'm running a movie and there's one person in the theater, I still have to pay for the copyrights in order to show that movie. If there's one person, 10 people, or 100 people, I still have to pay the same price. I still need roughly the same amount of people. If there's 1 versus 10 people in the movie theater, I still need a staffer to go and clean up afterwards. If it's 100 or 105 people, I still need the 3-4 people to go in afterwards. Adding 106 person didn't really add anything to my cost actually. So what do? Well, I'm going to charge a reduced price in order to incentivize people to come in during those lower times. Get the child in here. Why? Because they come with their parents and usually they buy the popcorn. And guess what? Now we've made some money off the popcorn, selling for $5 when it costs us 10 cents to make. Or the soda or whatever else it is. If you buy an Apple product, you get Apple TV for the first 3 months free of charge. Why? It literally didn't cost Apple any more to add you to their server unless they had to get a whole new server because they filled up, which is unlikely. So it didn't cost them anything else for you to get addicted to Ted Lasso or whatever else is on there at that time. So why not give you a reduced price? I have to cover my costs. Now with that said, there's actually 3 different types of price discrimination. The first one is the one we're going to spend the most time on. It's called first degree or perfect price discrimination. This is the only one I can remember seeing from College Board on a free response question or a multiple choice question. The idea is you're going to charge each customer in a single market the maximum price that they're willing to pay. Meaning, each customer is willing to pay the maximum price they're willing to pay, which means the significance of the demand curve is going to equal the marginal revenue tool. Now, when would you pay the maximum price? I think auctions. I'm willing to pay $100 for that good. Great, then charge you $100. I'm willing to pay $80. Great, I'm going to charge you $80. So what does this look like? So I have a little table here. We got person 1, 2, 3, and I have the price they're willing to pay, aka their demand. So when I want to sell to the first person, I'm going to charge them $10. So I have a total revenue of 10, which means I had an additional revenue of 10. In perfect price discrimination, here's the change. When I want to sell my second unit, I'm going to charge the first person the same $10. The second person, $8 though. So I'm charging 2 different prices. So I have a total revenue of 18 and a marginal revenue of 8. The same as the demand curve, the same as the price for them. Third person, you can guess, I'm going to charge you $6 and everybody else the other prices. So what's the big deal here? The demand curve becomes the marginal revenue curve for this instance. So how many units are you going to produce? Well, where the marginal revenue equals the marginal cost. That's the same rule, just our marginal revenue looks a little bit different. So that's the first big significance. The second piece of significance is that since consumers pay exactly what they're willing to pay, the consumer surplus is 0. If you go back to what you kind of practiced going in, you know, so you used to have a consumer surplus. That was kind of a triangle kind of in this little section right here, somewhere along those lines. Well, now there isn't any consumer surplus because the price you're willing to pay is the price you're going to pay. The price you're willing to pay is the price you did pay, and so forth. The other 2 ones, they're things to know. They aren't really well tested, but they're definitely strategies. So second degree is charging different prices for different quantities, like buy one, get one half off. That would be second degree. Charging each customer one price for the first set of units and a lower price for the other units. And the last one is charging some customers one price and other customers another price. Again, I think like the Safeway club card. It's not exactly an exclusive club. It's free to sign up. But if you do it, you put in your phone number, you get $1 off the pasta or 50 cents off the soup or whatever else it is. I need to be able to identify who is in this group, or if you're a student, you might have ASB for your school. Okay, you're getting charged different prices because you bought into that club ahead of time, so you get to whatever the perks are from the ASB. That'd be third price discrimination. So yes, this is something we need to know about. It can occur more when you're a monopoly or have monopoly power. And with that said, we're going to transition to the last kind of monopoly called a regulated monopoly. Now, when we say regulated, we typically mean natural monopolies. And the reason why is the natural monopoly pushes out all their competitors because they have economies of scale, meaning they've moved the furthest down the LRATC. They've pushed all everybody else out. So in order to make sure that they don't take advantage of this, we might regulate them. It is possible that there might be some deregulation happening, but we're going to cover that in a different topic. So right now we're going to talk about the regulated monopolies. So first off, what does it look like? This. A couple things to know, and then if you need to look at it, just pause the video. The demand curve and marginal revenue curve, those look the same. The main difference is that the average total cost and the marginal cost curve, they haven't yet crossed. That's how you indicate economy or the natural monopoly. I'm going to talk about the price listings and the quantity listings as we go through this. So if you need to take a moment, pause the video. Otherwise, let's explain why it looks this way. It goes back to the economies of scale concept. So we draw the natural monopoly. We kind of focus on this little section of the cost curve. And the reason why is if we're a natural monopoly, we have economies of scale. So before my ATC starts to increase, I'm going to go ahead and make SRAC 2. I'm going to go ahead and increase my plant capacity. And before my cost curves start to increase again, I'm going to go ahead and jump down. So the idea is that I'm never going to have a part where my ATC is increasing. I'm going to jump to the next plant capacity. So with that said, we kind of take this graph right here, and we zoom in specifically on this little section. And we see is that this green average total cost curve has not yet been crossed by the marginal cost curve. Hence why over here, when we see this, we see the green and the red as such. So that's how it looks. And now we need to talk about 3 different price points. The first one is an unregulated. It's called monopoly pricing. And this is simply where the MR is equal to the MC and the price of the demand curve. This is what we've been talking about. So MR equal to MC. So we have our profit maximizing output. That's what this QM is, by the way. That would be monopoly quantity. And you go up to your demand curve, and then is your monopoly price, hence the PM that was listed there. So this is a position monopolies would like to be at. They typically be making a profit at this point, as you can see. Second one is the socially optimum output. This one is regulated. This occurs when the demand is equal to the marginal cost curve. The nice part is there's no deadweight loss. It's allocatively efficient. So here's our demand equal to marginal cost. And so we have the QSO for socially optimum and the PSO for that would be the socially optimum price. This is by far where the government would like to regulate to because you're allocatively efficient. The downside, though, is because your demand is equal to your marginal cost, and by our definition, the marginal cost has not yet crossed ATC, you're forcing the company to produce at a loss. So you can guess how many companies are okay with that. So it does have an issue. You'd have to subsidize the market in order to do this, but there are some perks like the allocated efficient thing. With that said, this brings us to the last point, which is the fair return pricing. This is the producing when the demand is equal to the average total cost. It's the break-even point. When demand equals ATC. So here we go. PFR for fair return and QFR for the quantity of the fair return. This came about, it was a Supreme Court case. You don't need to know this for College Board, but it was an 1898 Smith v. Ames, at least in the United States. That was the first one that I found to be true about this. That brought this up. Again, you don't need to know this, but I know some of your curious minds are curious, so there you go. So that's the fair return price, so that's where it would be for that. It's break even. So do you regulate? Do you not regulate? Which one's better? Well, the socially optimum pricing, it increases the output, but it's going to cause a business to go out of business. Again, the Supreme Court's case said you can't do that. So fine, you have to subsidize the markets or make it a public good, I guess. Well, then how do you subsidize them? Increase the taxes or go further into debt. Again, that doesn't mean an automatic no, but it means there's opportunity cost. Fair return price, it doesn't hold the business to a competitive level as far as the social optimum does. So it under allocates. We're not at the social optimum output. We're at the fair return quantity. And the increase in production is not as much as the social optimum pricing, so it doesn't come down as much. With that said, it's break even. So it's definitely better than the monopoly pricing. And so a company would still be okay doing this because maybe they get the exclusive right to produce that good. And so they don't have to worry about competitors, which is kind of a nice place to be. So hope that helps. Until next time.